Welcome back to the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht, and today's guest is Katie Mehnert, author of The Ask: Break the Rules, Unleash Curiosity, and Build the Future. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to dig into this book. So you've got a couple books that you've written, but this is the newest, the latest and greatest, coming out soon. It will be out, I imagine, before this episode comes out. So by the time this episode comes out, we should have the link to the book. Katie, tell me about The Ask. Why did you write this book?
I was going to write a third book, so I've written 3 books now. The Ask was born out of a hospital bed. I was the kind of woman I am. I type A. I love to work. I love people. I run pretty hard, and I really think I'm unstoppable. And actually, I found that I am very stoppable. So I ended up in a hospital bed, and I decided, you know what, got the second chance at life. And my surgeon looked at me and said, "You've got 3 things that you got to do if you want to get out of this hospital. The first is you need to walk, right? You need to walk the hall. The second is you need to use the restroom. We all have to do that after major surgery. And the third was I need you to start writing down what's bothering you." And that's how The Ask was born.
Wow. Okay. So the doctor told you to do this?
Yeah, so the doctor said that to me. And I actually said to him, "Are you a surgeon
Right.
or are you a shrink?"
Right.
And he saved my life, though, because what he did was he made me stop and realize at the time I was 48. So that was in 2024. And I was getting ready to hit the big 49. And well, I just hit the big 50. So I knew that, wow, I'm coming up on a milestone birthday. I just got a chance at a second life. What had happened was I got into sepsis. I was going into septic shock. Some of my organs were shutting down. Apparently I was taxing my body so much that I just wasn't listening. And so to stop, to take myself away from digital devices, to hear my husband, plead with me to take better care of myself, to be reminded that I have a daughter, who's now 15, I realized I needed to really do some soul searching. And so I just started writing down and asking myself questions like, why did that just happen? What could I have done to avoid that from happening? And then it hit me. I was like, I really think this is the key to life, is asking yourself lots of questions, being curious about who you are. The problem is we think we're supposed to be something. We get to that point and then we think we're supposed to stay there because that's who we are. When really, as humans, we are evolving, we are growing every day. But we have to break the rules in our heads that keep us in that comfortable spot to then break through to what's next. And so for me, I had literally an alarm going off in my body. And I am so grateful I'm here to have this conversation with you.
Yeah. That speaks so much to me as my journey is I was working for other people for 20 years of my career, and I lost my job in 2024 when my company was acquired. And you talk about that, like, just I know I was stuck in this place where it was like I you start to identify yourself with your job and what you do and who you work with and for and all of that, and all of a sudden that changed for me, and in a good way, but you still go through all of this stuff, like just processing. But I was this thing, I was this person, and now I have to become this new version of myself. And but I think, yeah, like it's this necessary part of growth, that I wouldn't have continued growing if I'd stayed in that role where I was stuck. Anyway, so all of what you're saying is speaking directly to me and my journey and what I've been through. And I imagine it's speaking to so many other women out there as well who are feeling stuck in various things, and those health issues that come up. So you had this health issue come up, which was your body saying, you need to stop and you need to assess where you're at. You need to, like work through this. So writing the book sounds like it was kind of this therapy for you in getting a lot of that kind of out of your mind and out of your head and onto paper. So how did you approach that process of, the doctor said, I was surprised when you said that, because I'm like, a doctor asking you to write down what's bothering you, like that seems pretty unusual. I mean, usually doctors are like just there for the one thing that they're there for, right? But he was seeing a bigger thing going on with you. So tell me about how did you approach that? Like from the doctor saying that to you actually starting to put this book together.
Well, so I have written my first book. It took me 20 years to actually finish it. I started it because it was on my bucket list. Like everybody I know has a bucket list, right? And writing a book has become so much easier today than it ever has been, right? In the past. If you wrote a book 10 years ago, you were super special. Everybody knew who you were. But at the end of the day, we're living in a different era. So I wrote this first book and I put it aside. Like I've done a lot of things. I'm great at starting things because I'm a catalyst type person. What I've learned with time is sometimes I have to put something aside and let it sit and then come back, right, to finish it. And so my first book I actually wrote to heal from losing my home to Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey was a devastating moment in my life when we saw everything swept away. Now, I am a woman of privilege. I know that. We feel very blessed to have the things that we have, and we have absolutely come back from that. That was almost 8 years ago. But to see all the things you work hard for, right? You just said we identify with our work. Yeah, we identify too with our things, our home, our cars. I think for me, writing that first book was a revelation that there's a lot that's here and here that's way more important than a house or a car, right? Or a job. And our lives are finite. There's fixed time, friend. You and I, unfortunately, are gonna die. Just like the listeners are gonna die. So when you realize, wow, what am I working for and what am I working towards? So the first book was heal. Get myself through the boo-hoo of loss, which by the way, loss sucks, okay? It sucks. You lose a house, you lose a friend, you lose a parent, you lose a spouse, but it's a part of life. But if we don't get through loss, we get stuck. So I had to write that first book, right, to heal. This third book, I honestly didn't know I needed to write until God, my body, the surgeon, everybody was waking me up to, you're stuck again, Katie. Okay, you're stuck. So I said to myself, you know what? The first book, I actually wrote most of the book. The ideas, everything, but it was all a pile of, it was a mess. I'll be honest with you, it was a mess. But it was great. It was beautiful. This was my beautiful mess. But I found a guy that I liked who wrote really well. I just liked his flair. And I like hunted this guy down, who's become a good friend of mine, Eric Shapiro, great guy. And I said, Eric, I want you to help me with my book. I need your help. And he's like, well, I'm like, I don't do this anymore. I'm like, but I love the way you write. And he goes, oh, and then he wanted to listen to my story. And so he listened to my story. And so in 2019, I finished the book. And then guess what happened? 2020.
Yeah.
Right? Another crisis. So here I am writing about my career, my life. And of course, the first book starts with the crisis, which is Hurricane Harvey sweeping my life away. Okay. Then 2020 hits. Okay. I still have lots of these books at my house because I was supposed to go around the world and talk about the book and speak. But there I was, stopped because, the pandemic. So I didn't get to properly launch that first book, right? So I did feel like it was kind of, it was finished, but still put aside. So what I think the third book is it's the time to put the story out there, right? If people want to read the first book, awesome. I have copies of those, right? We sold about 1,000 copies. That's not bad, okay? But this third book, because I did do a children's book in between all this, but the third book is really about what I've become, and a framework around exactly what you said, which is, who am I building my life and my work for? Is it for some corporation that has no loyalty, right? Or
Right.
is it for me? Is it to heal something that I see in the world needs solving, right? Is it for my kid? And the thing is I stepped through this process and I had to call Eric again. I went, but here's the thing, Eric, why were you a ghostwriter? He said, because I felt bad about putting my name on things. I'm like, that is terrible. I'm going to hire you to help me with this book because there's part of this book I want you to write. But the rest of it, I'm writing, and we're going to work this book together, and you're the co-author. And he was like, you want my name on the book? I'm like, yeah, I want your name on the book, because part of the reason why when I met him, he was going through was his own journey of finding his voice in the world. So it's kind of interesting, the story, when you read it, he tells you how I hunted him down the first time, right? And here he is the second time helping me with the book. And he said yes, obviously, the second time without me having to, pull. But when I called him, I said, hey, I almost died. I almost died. Would you help me write this book? Because I might die before I get a chance to get the damn book into the world, right? Like, I don't want another trauma. So that's why I think that actually when people put creations into the world, books, movies, if you just look at everything out there, it's a reflection of their experience, their lived experience. And so I tell people, if you haven't written a book, you need to write a book. Because you know who those books are for? My daughter. Because when I'm gone, I want her to know her mom. I want her to know her mom.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, so you said it's for your daughter, but tell me who else this book is for.
Oh, well, it's for anyone who wants to get unstuck, who knows that there's something bigger, like the doctor who said, there's something else going on here with this woman, okay? They see a bigger picture. They see something bigger than themselves. They've had a job that, quite frankly, they probably should have left a long time ago, right? But they got kicked out the door. I learned at 39, which was a little bit of change ago, about 11 years ago. Yeah, 11 years ago, I left the corporate world. And because I saw my expiration date, I saw in the corporate world how I wasn't going to get to where I really wanted to go. And so I preemptively said, I'm leaving. I had an opportunity to, because they gave me a package. And let me tell you, if you can get a package, that's a good thing. So I got a package and I set out to be an entrepreneur. And so I've spent that time in the last 11 years, right, defining this new path. And I got to tell you, the most soulful, most amazing experience about writing a book is being able to not just reflect on your experience, but to write real time. I wrote this book real time. Literally, the journey is from the moment that the bed, I was in the hospital bed, to just 4 weeks ago when we finally got all the polished edits and all of that, because there's a lot of work that goes into a book. Okay, so if you're going to get a book, if you're going to do a book, I don't recommend just self-publishing. I recommend, you need to hire a friend. You got to hire a friend, because it's a lot of work, and you got to stay focused, and you got to meet deliverables and all that. So 4 weeks ago, I was still looking at the final words that I was going to put into the world. Okay. And what I realized was, well, this isn't the last book, because I got at least another book in me, right? But I got to write this one real time. I got to take my previous lessons, right, that I had learned, my previous hurts, and look at the last 11 years of my career, but then look forward and really write what I consider is a no holds barred manifesto for anyone ready to shatter the status quo and build a future that works for themselves and maybe even everyone. Because when you build for you, guess what you do? When you do you, you're doing your best work in the world. And imagine a world, Kelly, if all of us were doing exactly what we were supposed to be doing. I don't think we would be at war. I don't think that we would have economic issues. the inequality issues would go away. I think the world is in a massive reset right now. Massive. And people are like, that's crazy, Katie. Oh my God, I don't want to talk about the end. No, it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the old world, and the new world order is up to each of us to define. And that's what is exciting about this book, is I help you think through, how are you going to define your new world order, your role in the new world order? And I don't just talk about me. Eric goes and talks to, I don't know, 9, 10, 12 people that I know, and talks about their journey, right, to taking steps in their lives where they had to break the rules, get curious, and chart a way forward.
Yeah. 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 So tell me more about that. Before we started recording, you mentioned the different stories in the book. So how does that tell me a little bit more about just like how you used other people's stories within the book to kind of weave within, or I'm saying weave, I don't know, I haven't read your book yet, but within your own experience. So your story is from the in that hospital bed through that journey, right, of self-discovery, but then how did you weave in other people's stories?
So the first part of the book was kind of, setting the pace, setting the course. The middle of the book was, well, I basically said in the first part of the book, I said, look, this isn't just about me. This is about other people. I want you to meet other people and hear their stories, because my story, it's relatable. But boy, if I have a wide range of relatable stories, right? And told from my perspective, right? So what was beautiful about Eric was able to interview and help me figure out what their ask was. But then I told him how I met them, right? And so it was a beautiful way to bring people I know that have helped me along my journey, right? And these are people that are older, younger, black, white, male, female. I wanted this book to be relatable, because if it's relatable, someone's going to pick it up and say, oh my gosh, I hear myself in this book. I now want to go and do right what's next. And so through those personal stories and lessons from these kind of trailblazing people, I show how the power of asking can break the barriers and spark revolutions, right? You'll meet a feminist plumber who defied the odds in, a male-dominated world of trades, a visionary who was reshaping the energy industry with grit and audacity, and a global icon who proves that, vulnerability is the ultimate strength. So I tell these stories in a way to show you that I can do it, they can do it, you better believe you can do it. And then the third part of the book wraps it all up. And it gives you some framework and tools that, quite frankly, I didn't build. These are things I learned along the way. These are things that other people, right, who've creatively built. I was able to stitch those things together to give you a blueprint, not just for personal transformation, but if you're in a business where you're trying to flip market, you're trying to create a market or flip a market, you want to dismantle old ways of working, and you want to create a legacy, that this book will give you that blueprint to do that.
Love it. Tell me about the title.
Well, I will tell you this. The ask came immediately because I thought to myself, well, I'm asking myself a lot of questions, and we need to be really simple, because it's got to draw people, right? It's got to be relatable. So I said the ask. And I said, well, it can't just be the ask. It's got to be a little more descriptive. So what are we doing? Well, I'm trying to break my mindset. When I look at my child, when she was 12, she was invincible. Invincible. Now she's 15 and she's opinionated and, she's on her path to adulthood, right? But remember when we were kids, we broke the rules all the time. So I had to reimagine, and I wanted this title to say, hey, it's okay for you to break the rules. Because we're taught not to. We're taught to get to a certain point and then get comfortable. Okay? So we should always be breaking, the rules, to be thinking differently. Curiosity gets back to the ask. So it's getting curious. Can't ask questions until you put your state of mind in a state of curiosity. So curiosity is super important. And then, of course, building the future, the word build means something to me, because after building a company or two and a few nonprofits in the last 11 years, I was building something for me, not building somebody else's, right? Now, don't get me wrong, Kelly, and you talked about your career. I've talked very little about my career, but I had a corporate background. Corporations did wonderful things for people like us. It gave us tools and ways of working and frameworks, and it gave us great pay and benefits, okay? But at the end of the day, if you look at the bottom line, whose bottom line were you helping? What problem were you trying to solve, right, in those companies? And maybe those things were noble things, but it's time to take what problem you want to solve out into this new world, right? And that's what the ask is about, is a framework to help you do that. So, but thank you for asking the question. And I will say this, the front cover of the book was all a good friend of mine named Peter Durand. Peter does graphic visual recording. And I said, could you come up with a cover? And he came up with a cover and I immediately didn't like it because it was feminine. I said, look, there's this runner in there. He goes, but that's who you are. And I had to learn even through the book cover experience. Wait a minute, Katie, listen to what the world is saying. He drew this A is in the shape of my logo, Ally Energy, because that's my company. But that woman is a runner, and I'm a runner. I'm not a fast runner, but I'm a runner. And he said, no, this is you. This is you, and you're going to take this cover. Kind of like I told Eric. You're the man for the job. So I had to listen to that and to be willing to take that on. I was so afraid to put that on the cover of a book because part of the ask is figuring out, asking the wonderful question, do I love myself enough to put myself on the front cover of a book and put everything on the inside for the rest of the world to hear and to listen to? So this book is not just about me. It has literally got so many elements of other people's perspective in it. And that's what I think is so truly special about it. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing I love about you, Katie, is that you didn't just, I mean, you mentioned your first book took you 20 years, but you didn't get stuck in the writing of either book, really. I mean, what you did was you sought help to get the books done. And I love that because so many people get stuck in the like, I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book, but it's like, what's the purpose of writing that book? Do you want to get it out there someday? Right? Like, are you going to ever finish that book? So I love that you did that. What advice would you give to anyone who maybe is in that place of like, I've been writing a book forever and ever and ever, and I can't get my jumbled mess into like the actual content that I want?
Well, this is going to be controversial. So the first thing I will say is non-controversial, and it's because it's the absolute best thing that I did. And that was, you got to have a book buddy. Your buddy is either a ghostwriter, and you know what? Call it whatever you want to call it. Ghostwriter, book coach, book buddy. At the end of the day, we do not do life alone. If you do life alone, well, great. You haven't learned yet that things are done with people, right? They're done through each other. And so, look, having a book buddy has made a lifelong friend, okay? Someone I can call any day who knows my voice, who knows me, because you're really telling, you're there's a little bit of therapy that's going on there, right? But I think having an accountability partner is somebody who can get you over the line. Whether you're like, hey, I got a story and I can't write, but if you can learn my tone, if you can learn who I am, then let a professional help you. It's kind of like saying you're not going to go see a doctor when you're ill. You're not going to go get your hair done by somebody who would do a much better job of hair and makeup. I mean, this was hair and makeup for Katie today, but I got somebody who does hair and makeup, right? That's great. So I think that is important. Numero uno. Second, for someone like me, visionary, I need AI to help me organize my thoughts. I've been training AI for almost 5 years. So I was an early adopter. Surprise, surprise. Kind of like I threw myself out of corporate America. And people are like, oh, but you use AI to do a book. You're not original. Oh, no, 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 no. I have original stories. I have original ideas, right? AI has helped me think through, well, how do I want to take all those strands and put them into write a book? And then people would say, well, why don't you just have AI write the book? You know, I believe, hey, AI, and this is in the book, is going to be best when it's human-led. Human-led AI means you're using it for the best parts. So to me, the best way to write a book. Number one, get a book coach. By the way, aren't you a book coach? I think you're a book coach,
yes.
right? You do that, okay?
I do that.
This is what Kelly does, folks. So, shameless plug here. This is what she does. This is what she's putting into the world, or other people's stories. And then second, you've really got to start training take your brain and train your favorite tool on the way you think and the way you learn. Because the more you use AI, the more it will prompt you and ask, there is a chapter on the ask as the prompt. Because the better questions we ask of ourselves, the better questions we ask of AI, the faster we're going to get to, what am I supposed to be doing with my time on this earth? And that's what I learned real time with this book, right? So you've got to have these two tools, and then you absolutely have to be all in committed. Not, oh, I'll get this done in 20 years. Well, yeah, what if I died and that first book hadn't happened, right? So you got to make sure that you put a time on it. It's kind of like SMART rules, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, right? Relatable, I think, and then a time bound, right? Time bound. You got to put a stop on this.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is important, and has helped me get through this process.
That's great. Great advice for anyone who is in that, that thinking, overthinking, writing forever stage. So thank you for sharing that. Well, Katie, I will link to the ask in the show notes. Like I said, by the time this episode comes out, your book will be fully available. So we'll share that link. How else can listeners or viewers find out more about you and what you do?
Well, I've got a website, katiemehnert.com. You can check out me. But one of the things that I've recently launched as a result of this book, around the word building, is something called the B Suite. So it's the BEE suite.com. And I've created a community of builders. I've created a framework called BOSS, the BOSS system. Yes. Builders operating system and strategy to help people make that transition from corporate to here's what I want to be, right? And so, and it's for people who are maybe in corporate. It could be people who are trying to start a business. It could be people who are already in a business and want to optimize their businesses, right? And we call it the B Suite because at the end of the day, it's like I told you, you don't write a book without a buddy. The B Suite is an ecosystem, a hive of builders. And when you get builders building together, you build faster, smarter, and you get to trying to solve the problem that you're trying to solve, quicker. So you can check out katiemehnert.com. That's got all my musings and things that I do. The book obviously is on pre-order there. So if you get it there today, you get it much better than what you'll get, I think, when it's out for wider distribution. I'm available to speak as well. And then obviously the bsuite.com is where the builders are building.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Thanks for coming on and sharing your book journey with us. And I wish you the best of luck in your book launch of The Ask.
Well, thank you for having me, and good luck to you, Kelly, and everyone out there who is seeking to get their knowledge into the world. We need you.
Thanks, Katie.
Looking for a community of women writers to support and inspire you on your journey? Join the Author Power Circle. Connect weekly with fellow authors, stay accountable, and move your book forward in an encouraging community. Learn more at kellyschuknecht.com.